In the near future, after observing the pain and suffering caused by humans, aliens called souls come to Earth, hoping to once again restore peace. Throughout the universe, the souls are known for similar works across many different planets. They try to tailor their approach to the different needs of their various destinations, but are generally surprisingly calm, polite, respectful. Lying, stealing, and crimes against one another is foreign to them, which helps them keep the peace that promotes their vision. In Earth's grave scenario, the souls design to execute their plan by invading human bodies, take over its mental identity, and act on its behalf so that they can control the deteriorating state of the planet firsthand. The identity and consciousness of the invaded human completely dies, allowing for the souls to roam free and take control in the body. This invasion is signaled by a silver ring in the eyes of the host. The souls then hope to restore order on Earth by treating each other with love, respect, kindness, on top of acting morally with pristine human discipline, which allows them to naturally bring harmony to the world, eliminate wars, famine, and even combat climate change. However, no matter how good it sounds on paper, humans are not perceptive to this idea and try to fight for their survival as much as they can, believing that they are the only deserving ones to call the Earth home. Hence, even though a majority of the human population has been invaded and has become a carrier for the souls, a few remain hiding out in remote areas and carefully evading capture in hopes of regaining back control of the Earth someday. One day, one of the survivors, named Melanie Strider, is captured by the Souls officers, who are led by their supervisor named Seeker, who calmly asks Melanie to stop resisting and join their side so that she can be part of something bigger. However, sticking by her principles, Melanie refuses to even consider this, attacks one of the souls, uses the ensuing ruckus as a distraction to get away and to throw herself out of a fourth-story terrace, and dies, as the souls watch in shock. Moments later, hoping to access Melanie's memories and find the location of the surviving humans, Seeker orders the soul's head of transfer, Healer, to infuse Melanie's body with their kind. After healing all her injuries, Healer makes a small incision on the back of Melanie's neck and prepares her for the transfer. He then picks a soul vessel, carefully extracts the soul, and allows it to enter Melanie's body through the incision, causing Melanie to abruptly wake up with a silver ring in her eyes. Upon being asked for her identification, the new soul in Melanie's body explains that she has traveled to many different planets for too many years so far, and it's only right she be called Wanderer. In the next few days, as Seeker impatiently waits to put her to work, Wanderer is kept at the soul's facility until she recovers from the transfusion and acclimates to her new body.
Don't think this is yours.
However, one day, Wanderer is shocked to realize that Melanie has successfully managed to fight off the complete invasion of her body, and that her subconscious is still intact, which has never happened before. A few days later, once Wanderer recovers, Seeker puts her to work and asks her to access Melanie's memory. Wanderer complies, and after reporting the identity of her host, she narrates that Melanie narrowly managed to escape when souls went to her family house to capture humans, forcing her parents to stick to their vows and take their own life in fear of becoming host to one of the aliens. Despite Melanie's profuse begging, Wanderer reveals to Seeker that her host has escaped alongside her younger brother named Jaime, leaving the two beings to fight amongst each other for control and independence. Inside Melanie's body, one night, Melanie dreams about the bizarre day she met her survivor boyfriend, Jared.
I'm selling you dying.
Do it.
When she broke into his house on a food run and starts to miss him, which is also felt by Wanderer. Emotionally triggered, Melanie jumps out of bed and then starts to sketch Jared, hoping to feel closer to him. This backfires, however, when Wanderer submits the sketch to Seeker a few days later, and using Melanie's memory, reveals that her host, along with Jared and Jaime, managed to successfully escape capture for a long time and lived blissfully in an abandoned house where the trio enjoyed their freedom. welcome each other's company and made every moment count. Wanderer adds that the trio moved on from the abandoned house as souls started circling the area and began the journey to reunite with the other survivors, led by Melanie's uncle, Jeb, before stopping at an abandoned hotel for a night. There, unfortunately, souls come searching through the hotel while Jared is out on a supply run, and Melanie sacrifices herself to protect Jaime by deciding to show herself as a distraction away from the young boy and engaging the souls in a chase.
Stop! You were not meant to see that.
After a few moments of the chase, the souls gain on Melanie and surround her. Then, despite Seeker's offer to join them, Melanie throws herself off the terrace of the 4th floor of the abandoned hotel to her death. As this memory plays in her mind, Wanderer is touched by the love Melanie has for her little brother and accepts Melanie's plea to share no more of her memory about her loved ones, and even tears up the picture of the location of the other survivors in the desert, her host, Drew. In the next few days, Seeker tries every possible method of interrogation to get the location of the survivors' hiding place, but fails as Wanderer sympathizes with Melanie and shuts her boss out. One day, Seeker joins Wanderer on a walk and calmly tries to get the information she needs. Wanderer is privy to this method and manages to keep it all to herself.
Do you know where they are?
Until Seeker informs her that there's been a sighting of Jared and thanks her for drawing his profile accurately. This news elicits an emotional reaction from Melanie, who, through Wanderer, unexpectedly attacks Seeker until she's subdued. Later that day, as Melanie comes to her senses and lets Wanderer apologize for her reckless actions, she is informed that since she's unable to access the required information, Wanderer will be transferred to a new host body, while Seeker will be put in Melanie's, so that she can get rid of Melanie's consciousness once and for all, access her memories, and discover the survivor's location. Without further ado, terrified by this prospect, which will likely end in the elimination of all the survivors, Melanie, who has befriended Wanderer and with whom she has formed a trusting relationship with, proposes that it's time to run away from the Souls facility.
Jaime, Jared, she'll kill them. Wanderer.
As such, under Melanie's guidance, Wanderer locks her bedroom door, goes out to the terrace on the other side of the room, and bravely jumps out to the pool below her. As the souls discover this, Melanie takes over, beats a few of them, and successfully escapes to the street. There, Wanderer retakes control, dismisses Melanie's suggestion to steal a car as it's against her nature, and politely asks to borrow one from a local old man, demonstrating to her host that a polite request goes a long way, and successfully rushes away from the chaos. During the ride, Melanie and Wanderer discuss their next stop and decide that Wanderer should go and see Healer, who more than likely will give her a solution. However, midway into her escape, Melanie changes her mind and convinces Wanderer that it would be better to reunite with the rest of the survivors, citing that the souls are too risky to trust at the moment. Having agreed with the new plan, Wanderer drives to the deserts. Meanwhile, at the Souls facility, Seeker angrily goes through Wanderer's room, hoping to find clues of where Wanderer may likely end up, and finds the torn-up pages of the desert. She then carefully collects the pieces and starts putting them together with determination. On the other side of town, during the drive, Melanie reminisces about the tranquil life she had with Jared and Jaime and feels utterly lonely. She then tricks Wanderer to go in the wrong direction before crashing the car so that it won't be a liability for their capture and so that it can temporarily lead the enemies away and give them time to figure out their next mode of transport. With the guidance of Melanie, Wanderer navigates through the brutal desert all day until she can no longer move. She then takes shelter under a tree and falls asleep, only to be awakened by Melanie's uncle, Jeb. As soon as Jeb wakes Melanie up, he's gutted to see the silver rings in her eyes, but even though he realizes that she's no longer one of his own, he couldn't muster up the courage to kill her, as he would have other human hosts, and starts chatting with her.
Oh God. They don't see me. They only see you.
However, Jeb's crew, including his sister Maggie, arrives shortly afterwards, and two of the young men, brothers Kyle and Ian, attempt to shoot and kill Melanie on the spot until Jeb interferes. During this whole ordeal, Melanie screams her name, attempts to identify herself and how, even though she is now a host, she still exists inside her body, alongside Wanderer, and is confused to see that none of them hear a word of her testimony until she realizes that only Wanderer can hear her now, Jeb decides to take Melanie to the cave, despite the resistance from everyone else, who believe that Wanderer is just a liability and will lead the rest of the souls there. Hoping to soothe their fear, Jeb blindfolds Wanderer and leads her to the secret but ginormous cave where the rest of the survivors reside. There, Melanie is ecstatic to see Jared, but before she can address him, believing Melanie is no longer there, he slaps Wanderer brutally.
Jared!
Before he is taken aside to calm down. Then, Jeb takes Wanderer around the cave, introducing her to the many members of the Resistance, including to a physician referred to as Doc, who has been studying the souls. Then, Jeb takes Melanie to her room, keeps Jared by the door to guard her from all the hostilities of the rest of the survivors, and warns him to keep an eye on her. As Jared distantly sits by the door, avoiding eye contact, Melanie realizes that no one will ever believe that her subconsciousness still exists in her body, and begs Wanderer not to tell anyone so that she won't be considered a liar. A few moments later, Kyle and Ian storm Wanderer's room and fight with Jared as they proceed to attack Wanderer. Wanderer tries to intervene and help Jared, and a small chaos ensues until Jeb steps in and breaks it up. On the outside, after successfully reconstructing the torn-up drawing and a thorough research, Seeker and her crew organize helicopters and many cars for the search. They then go to the desert and start circling around, hoping to find any clues of Wanderer's whereabouts. While in the creaks and cracks of the brutal landscape, the survivors employ their own methods of reconnaissance to keep track of the soul's movement. At the cave, Jaime sneaks in to see Wanderer, and the two discuss what happened to Melanie the night she was captured. As Jeb secretly listens in, Wanderer confides in the little boy the reason why her colleagues are chasing her is in hopes of finding the necessary information to eliminate mankind. However, this interaction infuriates Jared, who storms in and prohibits Jaime from interacting with an alien. Ian tries to calm down Jared and shares his observation that Wanderer has a different nature from the usual Seeker-type souls, as she tried to help Jared in the fight earlier, even though he had slapped her earlier, and hints that they should find out as much as they could about their new housemate. However, Jared wants to hear none of it and shuts down the conversation. Later, Jeb befriends Wanderer, starts calling her Wanda, and takes her around the massive makeshift facilities of the cave. First, he takes her to the small river on one side of the cave, where the members take showers before proceeding to the unique crop farm below a mirrored roof of the cave, where the residents take turns tending to the crop. Meanwhile, on the outside, the search is intensified, and Seeker is joined by more officers in both air and land support, as she leads her crew around the vast desert, following any potential clues. In the cave, as the helicopter flies directly above the secret cave, Jeb and the rest of the people rush to close the mirror so that they could evade being seen. Wanda impresses Jeb and everyone else by helping Jaime close the mirrors, showing that, contrary to popular belief, she is on the people's side.
Same way the magicians do it. Mirrors.
Hoping they would get to spend some time with each other, Jeb assigns Jaime to watch Wanda. Excited, Jaime takes Wanda to his secret place inside the cave full of glowing worms. There, after Jaime and Wanda spend some time together, Melanie couldn't take lying to her beloved little brother anymore, and so she breaks her own rule to confide in Jaime that she's still there, fighting for her survival, which delights the young boy to no end. The next day, in the cave, a group of survivors prepare to head to the city to make a supply run, while on the other side, Jeb invites Wanda to join the rest of the survivors in gathering the mature crop in the farm, where she starts forming a special connection with Ian. Meanwhile, in the city, the group of survivors, consisting of Kyle, Jared, Brant, and Aaron, make it to the supermarket, load all that they need, knock out a soul trying to start trouble, put him in their van, and prepare to return back to the cave. Elsewhere at the cave, Seeker's helicopter starts circling above once again, which rushes the survivors to close the mirrors. As everyone rushes around the farm, Jaime injures his leg and starts bleeding. On the outside, the Seeker, riding in a helicopter, senses that a truck is driving above the speed limit on the street below and infers that it must be driven by humans, as souls generally don't break rules. Hence, Seeker attempts to ask the driver to pull over, but she is met with hostility as the driver Brant and his partner Aaron start firing at her. Sadly, after a few minutes of chase, Brant and Aaron are cornered, and choosing to die instead of becoming hosts to the aliens they hate so much, the men crash their car and take their own lives, while their friends, Jared and Kyle, watch from afar with despair. After stopping for a few moments, as a result of the disturbance, Jared and Kyle start to slowly flee the scene and continue on their way to the cave. Seeker takes the fight personally, and as she continues to chase the surviving fighters down, she accidentally kills one of her own, which infuriates her superiors into shutting down the search for humans once and for all and leaving them to die out on their own. At the cave, the survivors start warming up to Wanda after spending time in the field with her and gather around at the canteen asking her different questions about her kind. Wanda explains that she is more than 1,000 Earth years old and has been on a mission to 12 other planets so far, where her kind has perfected different ways of life and helped the local species live a better life. This nice interaction is soon interrupted by Jared and Kyle, who come in angry and grieved by the loss of their friends and attempt to attack Wanda, blaming her and her kind for all the troubles. Jeb and Ian defend Wanda while Jaime desperately cries out in fear for Melanie and reveals that his sister's subconscious is still there. That night, Ian takes Wanda to his room to keep her safe from all the animosity.
I trust you.
While on the other side of the cave, after hearing of Melanie's presence, Jared calms down, thinks of all the good times he had with his beloved girlfriend, and goes to see Wanda to check for himself. There, he confesses how much he still loves Melanie and how much he misses her, while Melanie listens from within Wanda, and even though he can't hear her, declares that she shares his feelings. Then Jared tries to get close to Wanda, hoping to incite a reaction out of Melanie, which works as a jealous Melanie acts out and slaps him. Excited by the discovery, Jared professes how much he loves Melanie, but feeling overwhelmed, Wanda storms out of the room and heads to the river to calm her mind. Moments later, Kyle comes to the river looking for Wanda, and as she discreetly tries to return to her room, he attacks her and attempts to kill her. A struggle ensues between the two, and Wanda manages to overpower her attacker, who falls into the flowing river. Despite Melanie's plea to let Kyle die, Wanda calls for help and rescues Kyle, who is given a serious warning by Jeb. Wanda diffuses the situation, declaring that the whole thing was just an accident, and calms everyone down. Jeb then sends Kyle and Jared for an errand in the city, while Ian officially asks Wanda out and takes her out of the cave to spend some quality time with her. The two get to know each other, and Ian confesses how much he likes Wanda and that he wants to be with her. However, Wanda shares her conflict in that even though she likes him and wants to be with him, Melanie is still in love with Jared and won't allow her to be with another man. Despite Melanie's profuse plea against, Wanda decides to get to know Ian, spends the afternoon with him, and officially starts a relationship with him. In the next few days, Melanie and Wanda become even closer and carry out internal conversations in which they discuss their current situations and the possible ways of going forward. Meanwhile, Seeker has taken the search for humans as a personal mission and, despite her superior's orders, continues to study different maps and data to locate the survivors in hopes of destroying them once and for all so that her kind can reign supreme. At the cave, Jaime's leg wound gets infected and endangers his life. As Wanda searches for Doc to discuss the possible treatments, she sees everyone gathered in the infirmary and engaged in a serious discussion. Melanie immediately realizes what's going on and begs for Wanda to stay out of the infirmary, to no avail. Wanda screams at Melanie to leave her alone.
Get out of my head! Get out!
Marches into the infirmary and is terrified to see numerous host bodies laid around the room after the failed attempt of trying to remove the souls and liberating the humans. As she goes deeper into the infirmary, she is even more traumatized to see the many extracted dead souls removed from the host bodies and shuts herself out in her room for days, trying to contemplate on how to approach the situation and if she should leave to join her kind back in the city. A few days later, Wanda calmly informs informs Jeb that the procedure won't work and that it's just going to result in more dead bodies. However, Wanda decides to stay in the cave after hearing that Jaime's condition has gotten worse and that he's basically staring down death. Wanda summons Melanie, who had disappeared for a few days, and the two discuss a plan to help Jaime. Then Wanda asks Jared to drive her to the Souls Hospital in the city so that she can steal their medicine, as time is of the essence and they can't give Jaime human medicine and wait for it to start working. Once at the hospital, Wanda, all along discussing her moves with Melanie, cuts herself and goes to see the healer, who kindly treats her. She then causes a distraction and manages to get as much medicine as possible. On her way out, Wanda sees a soul vessel sitting around and discreetly steals it. Then Wanda and Jared rush back to the cave and get there just in time. After convincing the still suspicious public of the cave, Wanda administers the medicine on Jaime, which to the relief of everyone heals him immediately. Meanwhile, outside the cave, Seeker has continued her search and makes it back to the desert to hunt the survivors down. Jaime's immediate recovery gives Wanda some trust with the fellow survivors, and she, along with Ian and Jared, are sent on the next supply run. When the trio return after a successful run, they are shocked to find one of the survivors dead at the cave's doorstep. Before the trio can process what's going on, Seeker comes out of nowhere and holds them at gunpoint after expressing how happy she is to see Wanda. Luckily, Jeb surprises Seeker from behind and shoots her. They then bring Seeker to the cave and imprison her in one of the rooms. There, Wanda and Seeker come face to face for the first time in a long time, and Wanda asks why Seeker is this invested in hunting her down. Seeker explains that she is repulsed by weak souls like Wanda that give their species a bad name, and declares that she's doing all the vigilante work in the name of restoring their good name and their lost supremacy on Earth. Wanda leaves Seeker to her insanities, shuts out Melanie, and then takes time out to consider everything and form an action plan. She remembers all the dangers that resulted from entangling herself with the humans too much and decides to remove herself from the equation. She then approaches Doc and, to the shock of Melanie, relates that she can show him how to take out souls from invaded humans safely on the condition that he secretly follows her direction and helps her leave everything behind. Then she presents her idea to Jeb, who is reluctant to consider freeing a soul and just wants to see it die, and convinces him that the bloodshed must end soon and promises to protect them from any harm. As the Doc, Jared, Jeb, and Ian watch in utter fascination, Wanda presents the soul vessel, narrates that souls can leave Earth the same way they came, and vows to send Seeker so far away that she won't be able to come back for numerous generations. She then starts the procedure by making an incision on the Seeker's neck and reveals that the secret to a successful procedure is approaching the soul with kindness and coaxing it to leave the body on its own, instead of angrily trying to pull it out. As the group watches in awe, Wanda successfully removes the Seeker and employs Ian's help to put it back into the vessel. Immediately after, the host body of Seeker wakes up in utter delight, profusely thanking them for finally liberating her, and introduces herself as Lacey. Lacey details that she has been screaming for freedom for years and suffered a lot, trapped inside and fighting to maintain her existence. She adds that this fight was the thing that agitated the Seeker to continuously seek to destroy humans.
He'll fight back.
Wanda discreetly breaks into the Souls facility with Jared and Ian and sets the Seeker on a long journey away from Earth. Later, Wanda spends time with Jaime and informs him of her plan to give Melanie her life back and leave them all behind, which upsets the young boy. After some hesitation, Wanda makes her final decision, calls Jared, Ian, Doc, and Jeb for a meeting, and informs them of her plan that she is prepared to give Melanie her life back, as she doesn't want to stall her from living it the way she wants any longer, and that she has decided to go the next planet. This is met by a mixed emotion of apprehension and understanding, as everyone remembers the positive impact the alien they once wanted dead had on them.
We have to go.
Ian and Wanda share an emotional and tender farewell, and Wanda sets out. She then discreetly goes to see Doc as arranged and prepares to be killed, telling the old man that she is tired of living in foreign bodies for thousands of years and just wants to get out of the way so that everyone else can proceed with their life. Melanie tries to convince Wanda to change her mind one more time, to no avail. Melanie then begs Wanda to go to the next planet, like she told everyone she would, but the tired alien confesses that the nearest planet is so far away that by the time she gets there, all of the people she cared about on Earth will no longer be alive, and that she couldn't handle living with that thought. Then Melanie and Wanda share how much they meant to each other, thank each other for a wonderful journey, and profess how much they have come to love one another before sharing a final farewell as the procedure is started. However, moments later, Wanda is confused to find herself waking up in the infirmary, with Melanie standing in front of her and wonders what's going on. After observing her surroundings, Wanda learns that Doc has been forced to break his promise to kill her by her loved ones and has managed to successfully transplant her into another young girl's body, assuring her that her new host was already dying and that they didn't purposefully kill her. Wanda takes a few moments to process what's going on and realizes how happy she is that she was given another chance. She thanks everyone for their loyalty, care, and for understanding her enough to know what's best for her more than herself, before emotionally reuniting with Ian, who is ecstatic to have the love of his life back. In the aftermath, Melanie and Jared resume their relationship, while Ian and Wanda start theirs. The survivors, who have now fully embraced Wanda as one of their own, continue their communal living in the cave, hoping to outlast the aliens. Sometime later, as Jared, Melanie, Ian, and Wanda decide to unwind and go driving around the city at night. However, after driving a few miles, they are stopped by a group of seeker souls who ask them to identify themselves and show them their eyes. All of the members of the group, except for Wanda, wear dark eyeglasses, hoping to buy some time until the seekers discover their human nature so that they can plan how to handle the situation. After the seeker examines everyone's identity and making sure Wanda is not the humans' prisoner, the seeker group reveals human officers among them, proudly announcing that they too are a blended bunch, that coexistence is quite possible, and that home is where one's loved ones are. The human officer then shares that there are 2 other human survival groups out there, and that there might indeed be hope for the survival of humanity. After all, humanity's corrupt moral standards cost it its home, as alien beings, far less intelligent than it, are forced to teach it a way of life more fitting to its superior nature by living more humanly. All is not lost, though, as Melanie's perseverance and love for Jaime and Jared keep her around, long enough to teach Wanda to see things from humanity's perspective, and gets her on board to help the few human survivors, while on the other hand, Jeb's welcoming leadership also adds to incorporate the 2 opposing worlds and find a way to coexist and even maybe someday thrive here on Earth.